the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. What are you celebrating tonight? For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists. And I believe that there's a lot to celebrate. And I am so excited because tonight we get to celebrate the one and only Bruce Kimmel, and he is always worth celebrating. This is a man, when I think about Bruce, this is a man who I feel has created his own career. He has etched out, he has made his a name in every realm of the business. And if it hasn't been done, he's created it himself. And Bruce, I want to ask before we start tonight, what are you celebrating today?
I am celebrating that I am in this StreamYard world. I don't know. I set up a beautiful new thing where I could use my iPhone camera, and as you saw, it didn't work.
Well,
here I am on the bad camera.
Well, you look great. Mercury is in retrograde, so anything can and will happen. And here we are starting tonight. Before we start tonight, I did ask you for a photograph of you as a 5-year-old, and you delivered. And the reason I asked for a photograph as a 5-year-old, and here you are, and if you'll lean over a little bit, you can see that you haven't changed a bit. You look exactly the same. Well, that's gone, but you still look the same. Because to me, you look a little bit older than 5 here, I think.
I may well be. This is the first thing. I love the shirt, don't you?
Oh, I do.
Shirt. I just love that shirt.
But what I love about this is, for me, that's the purest self. It's before school starts, before life begins to happen for you. People start telling you who you should be or who you shouldn't be. And I'd like to know a little bit about this little boy. I know that you were born in Los Angeles. So tell us a little bit about your childhood and the road that led you to the path that got you to where you are today.
Well, I was born in Los Angeles, as you said, a long time ago. And I knew from an early age that I wanted to act. I don't know what gene that is. Certainly it wasn't from my parents. And I used to wake up in the morning and pretend I was being filmed by a Paramount VistaVision camera.
I love it.
And my parents were not, they didn't like that aspect of me. They didn't like anything, but I come from a very dysfunctional Jewish family. And my parents were not supportive of my dreams. But that's what I did. I would watch these live shows that were from LA specifically, and I would set up a little camera made out of my father's cardboard in the shirts, and I would make a little camera, and then I would take that outdoors with me and walk in my neighborhood like I was filming myself doing a little TV show, and people would look at me like I was insane. And that was, I had a wonderful childhood within me, not in my house necessarily. I had a brother who liked to try to damage me at any time, punching me in the eye or putting a knife in my foot. He's better now. So I had a blast as a kid, because in those days, Richard, as you know, we could leave the house at 9 in the morning, right? And we could not come back till 6. And in the case of my parents, they didn't care where I was or what I was doing. So that was the way to live. And I just went everywhere in the city. I took cabs, I took buses, I took, whatever it took. I went to Hollywood 2 or 3 times a week. And I was at the movies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Well, except for the Jewish part, I'm not Jewish, but what you've just done is you've just described my life on many, many levels. But I want to know, I mean, you grew up in Los Angeles, very close to the movie industry and everything. Did you go to the studios? Did you hang out outside the studios?
I wish that were the case. There was next to one of my neighborhood movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little place called Carthay Studios. I never knew what they did in there, but it was a little studio. And I ended up shooting a TV show there once. And it was like coming home, because I always would look inside and see the cameras and want to be in there, but not the major studios. I knew where they were. Certainly, how did you not know where the Paramount gate was, or the Warner Bros. Gate was, or the Fox gate was? Because I lived not that far from Fox. I grew up about 10 to 15 minutes from Fox. But boy, did I want it. And my mother, at one point, came home. This was in 1959, I want to say. And she said, "Oh, I went to Paramount today and I saw a movie being shot. It was very interesting." And I said, "Really? And you didn't take your son to see it?" And the movie, of course, was one of my favorite movies of all time, Little Abner.
Oh my God. Wow.
She told me that Stella Stevens was shooting the But Ballsy scene. And I just...
Did she tell you how she got on the set?
She went with a friend. And when I wrote my first novel, because it's a sort of a fictionalized version of my childhood, I got to go in the novel. So
wow.
Nothing was stopping me from going in that.
So, Bruce, I want to ask you, where did that gene come from for you? I mean, I grew up at a time where I grew up in a television household. So even though I was as far removed from Hollywood, I grew up in South Carolina. I grew up as far removed from Hollywood and Broadway and the theater as anyone could possibly grow up. But where, for you, did that come from? Did it come from going to the movies? What was it for you as a child that you wanted to be part of that world? And what was your thought process about what that world was?
It had to have come from television, actually, because I watched TV from, God, I remember Boston Blackie. I remember shows that nobody remembers, and Waterfront. And I just watched everything. I was like a little sponge. I was glued, rather like the people of today, glued to the TV, except that there were only 7 channels or something. But so that was initially it. But I remember going to the movies from the time I was 3 or 4. And I think my parents actually let me go alone from the time I was 4 or 5. And I just loved it. I didn't know what it meant, but I wanted to be on the screen. I wanted to be with those actors. I would turn around sometimes in the movie theater and look behind me at the little portal where the projector.
Stream of light.
Right. And I would see the little square up there, and I thought they were watching TV, but I did not understand how it could be in color, because ours was not in color. But I think that's it, because I had an Uncle Al who was an agent, and that was my only connection to show business. He was a literary agent with Swanson, with Swanee, the biggest literary agency. And he actually much later tried to help me.
Now, when you were in school, did you have any connection with the arts and education or anything? Was there an outlet for you as far as music or drama in school?
Not in grammar school, because they didn't do that in grammar school, although we did an assembly, or I think we did a Cinco de Mayo dance night. people laugh. But in junior high, there wasn't a drama class, but they had these noon assemblies where you could, I remember doing G Officer Krupke all by myself, all parts.
All parts, of course.
At one of the assemblies. So at that point, yes, I was sort of really heavily into it because I had started going to the theater in 1961. I want to say we had a theater here called, it's still there, but it was called the Huntington Hartford when I was a kid, and then we had the Biltmore Theater. So in 1961, I saw my very first play at the Hartford, which was The Tenth Man, the touring company of Padachevsky's The Tenth Man, which I just loved, although I couldn't believe it. You go to escape your house and your roots, and the curtain goes up, and it's in a temple, with a bunch of Jews. So I escaped nothing in the Huntington Hartford. It was like seeing my grandparents on the stage. So, and then right after that, it was Thurber Carnival with Imogene Coca and Arthur Treacher and King Donovan. I just went crazy for that. And then I saw my first Broadway musical, the tour of The Unsingable Molly Brown at the Biltmore with Tammy Grimes and Harv Presnell. And oh my God. And that was the end. The floodgates opened. And when I started, just before I started high school in 1962, my Uncle Al badgered my parents so much that they let me go to acting school.
And that was where?
That was at Jerry Bloom Acting School. I won't tell you. You can Google him. He did not have a good end. I never saw that side of him, but apparently
he wasn't teaching the Stanislavski method.
Well, he liked the young boys, didn't he? I was not part of it, but he.
Okay, that's another show altogether.
Yes, but the class, I liked it. But he didn't teach acting. Ironically, he taught how to behave on an interview. He taught how to audition, and we did scenes occasionally. But in that class, I was scared out of my mind. I was just shaking. It was upstairs on Melrose Place in Los Angeles, I remember. And I just ooh, and I was sitting in a chair, and there was an empty seat next to me, and in walks this adorable little girl. And I'm going, I know this girl. I just saw her in a movie. And it was Amaryllis from the movie of the music from Monique Vermont, who is still my friend to this day. And we developed a really funny relationship and would talk on the phone all the time. And then we reconnected about 10 years ago. So that was really fun. And I just loved going there. I mean, it was like being more home than home. And at the same Go ahead.
Was there anything from that class that solidified for you that you were really on the right path? Or, I mean, did you feel that you were ahead of what you were getting from that class?
I did. I did, because I wanted to act, and that's not what the class was really about. But I loved being there. I mean, it was like being in a warm bath for me, baths, but warm shower for me. But but at the same time, my Uncle Al also arranged for me to be in dance class, because I would go around doing, the dance at the gym in my house, and everything from West Side Story, because I'm obsessed with the movie of West Side Story, much like the kids are obsessed with the new one. And he put me in Roland Dupre's dance class on 3rd Street. And unfortunately, I have danced professionally on the television screen and in film, but I am not a dancer, I have to tell you. And really, and Roland Dupre was gone one Saturday from the class, and David Winters came in and taught the class. He was the original Baby John on Broadway and Arab in the film of West Side Story. he gave, we did the thing and we warmed up, and he gave us a combination, which, combinations were not in a Mexican restaurant. I can have a combination, but not a dance class. So he just looked at me at one point and he says, "Why don't your feet work normally?" Flash forward 20, not even 20 years. My God, that's so funny, because this was in 62.
Mm-hmm.
3, and 13 years later, he would be choreographing me on the Donnie and Marie show. And I reminded him of this incident. So that's where you go. And he ended up putting me in a movie he directed. So
that's wonderful. I mean, well, and that's the nature of this business that you're in. As you're starting to embark on a career, what are the first steps that you take in Los Angeles? And as you're starting to embark on this career, are your parents starting to come around and starting to have faith that you know what you're doing and that you're going on the right path?
not at the beginning, I will say, because I never pursued anything while I was in high school, because I did a lot of high school plays.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to college, to Los Angeles City College, and did everything there. I was one of the big people there. And we had a great department in those days. LACC was the place to go. So, I mean, it was just filled with alumni who were huge stars, Robert Vaughn and James Coburn and Morgan Freeman and all these soap opera people and Donna Reed. And so it was a very wonderful school, and we got great training. And so I did, and they came to the shows, but it was all, go be a lawyer, and all that kind of pressure. But there was no dissuading me at that point. And then I went to New York and didn't do anything for a year except Summer Stop, one show, and came back. And I was married at the time, and my ex-wife was pregnant. And so we had our first and only child in 1970 in March, and we gave me sort of till September to start working. Otherwise, I had to get a real job. So.
Well, let's go back to New York for a moment. You come to New York to pursue a career. You do summer stock. What are some of the life lessons that you learned being a quote unquote struggling actor in New York? I mean, obviously there must have been the excitement. I know that New York was a very different animal in the early 1970s when you were here. What was the experience like for you, and what did you glean from that that has stayed with you as you pursued your career moving forward? And obviously, you're going to be a new dad. All of those things are being put on you as well. That's a lot to have on your plate.
Yeah, it was interesting. I got there in December of 1969 and saw Hello, Dolly the first night I was there, early May. And then the next day saw Promises, Promises.
And that was going to be in your future as well.
Oh, yeah. So both shows. And so I loved that. And I loved the whole first month or two, because I had some contacts there, and I went to visit some people, and I auditioned for George M. right away. And actually, they loved me as a singer and as a actor. And then they asked the key question that all George M. auditionees do: do you tap?
Do you tap?
I do.
Can I tap?
See, you could have gone there. And, I auditioned for things. There just wasn't, it was a tough city in those days. It was just really, but fun. And I had a friend from LACC who lived there, so that was good. And then I got this summer show, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off, which I got to direct and act in. And that was heaven. And that was exactly when we found out that the ex was pregnant. So that was weird. And then there was the moon landing when we were performing. And
that was, 69. What a year that was.
And then, but nothing happened after that. And I went to work, I love this, for a company called Commercial Analysts on, it was off 3rd Avenue and 43rd in a high rise. And what you did at, because I had a friend who was in Stop the World, one of the chorus girls, said, if you need money, this is great. You just call people and take surveys. And it was all out of work actors, and Paul Keith. I don't know if you know Paul Keith, but I mean, a lot of people who went on to have interesting careers. And it was there at that, and I loved the people there, and it was easy to do, And I worked there for 5 months, and they actually offered me a full-time job, and I, thank God, said no. But it was there that I conceived the idea for what would become the First Nudie Musical, because we used to go to these, what was then softcore, I guess you would call it porn, or adult nudies, they were called, on 8th Avenue and on 42nd Street. And so hilarious, because we just thought they were so funny.
Are you talking about the films or the live shows?
The films, never the live shows. But
there were a lot of those too when I first came to New York.
But we saw like a movie called She Came on the Bus, and The Lustful Turk. And I just thought we just would howl with laughter. And anyway.
Well, I have to tell you, one night I went to the Waverly Theater. A whole group of us went to see a 3D porn film.
Oh.
Just for the fun of it. It was, yes, exactly. And all I remember are these women in front of me going like this through the whole film.
Wow.
But I mean, it was just the laughter in the theater. It was so badly done. And it was like, you know, one of those gimmicky films just for the fun of everything being in your face, no pun intended, and every pun intended. But you come up with this idea of doing the First Nudie Musical. And I'm sure, hopefully everyone here has seen it. When did the writing come about? I mean, that you knew that you were also, you know, a writer, and that all these other elements were in place for you.
I had always written songs, always, and I always wanted to be a writer. And I had been writing songs since I was 14 years old. And I got in this another interesting New York thing. I met a guy named James Morgan, the guy from New York, who was a wannabe lyricist, and he was just dying to find a composer he could work with. And I had always written my own lyrics, but I agreed to write with him for a while, and we were writing a musical version of Fashion or something. But anyway, he got in the Lehman Engel workshop, so I got in. I think it was the second or third year of that workshop on 57th Street, I remember. And God only knows who was in that class, but I'll bet Ed Kleban was in that class. I don't have a list. But anyway, that was a really interesting experience, and I realized I didn't want to write with anybody but me. And so then when I got back to LA, but in New York, I had written songs for this idea that we had, this Nudie, it wasn't called Nudie Musical at the time, but I wrote a few of the shorter ditties. And and those never changed, actually. They're all in the movie. And then I came back to LA, and I had this timeline where I had to work. And the month before that was up, LACC called me, the head of LACC called me and said he was doing a play called Jimmy Shine by Marie Shishkol. And there was nobody in the department who could do the lead. So he asked me to come back, and I said, oh, I don't want to come back to school, but I did, because it was a fabulous part, and he was a wonderful director. So I did this play, Jimmy Shine, and closing night, an alumni came to the show named Shelley Morrison, who was a regular on The Flying Nun for years, and had a really successful TV career. And she came back after the show, and she said, "You're so funny. Oh my God, everything you do is blah, blah." And she said, "Do you have an agent?" I said, "No." I said, "Would I be here if I had an agent?" And she said, "Oh, I have a wonderful agent. You've got to meet him." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Give me your phone number." I gave her my phone number, and you think I'll never hear from her again, and go on. So 2 days later, on Monday morning, she calls me and says, "Can you come meet my agent right now?" I said, "Yes." So I got in the Nash Rambler. We had a Nash, my wife's parents' Nash Rambler, 1956, I think it was. Chugged down there and met this agent, Alex Brewis, and he signed me on site. He said, "I don't have anybody like you. If Shelley says you're good, you're good." And he signed me. And a week later, I was testing for the lead in a pilot for Warner Brothers. And it came down to me and one other guy, and the other guy got it. But that was to do that. Your first time out at bat, to get that far was unbelievable. And a week after that, I read for a new TV show that was in the middle of its season called The Young Lawyers on Channel 7. And the director was John Newland, who I had grown up with on One Step Beyond. So I was very impressed with John Newland. Yeah, and he was very impressed that I think I got it because I knew who he was. Because I said in the interview, I said, "Oh my God, One Step Beyond." And but he loved me. So they cast me, and that was my first guest shot, petrifying. And I never stopped after that for 14 years.
That's an amazing story. I mean, and it's just, I interviewed Davis Gaines some time ago, and he said that being in this business, you can map out a game plan, and then all of a sudden it's like being in a pinball game. You are bandied around like a pinball ball, and it's all depending upon the people you're meeting, being at the right place at the right time. Did you have a game plan in place, or do you feel that it's because of the people that you've met along the way? What do you attribute to the trajectory of the career that you've had?
I got lucky. I mean, you have to say it. You just, I had no plan really. I wanted to work. I loved it. I loved being on camera. And I had a really great agent. This guy was amazing. And as people see you, I remember Shelley Morrison got me in to see this casting director named Shelley. Oh God, she changed her name, so I never remember her old name. Shelley at Screen Gems. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got in at Screen Gems and got the Partridge Family. And but I got a pilot right after The Young Lawyers, literally 2 weeks later. I went in for a pilot at CBS and got it, co-starring role. In the days when co-starring meant co-starring, not 5 lines. But
now, when you were back in New York, did you ever once waver from wanting to be in this business?
No, never. Which is why I didn't accept the job at Commercial Analysts, because they were offering me in those days. Let me clear my throat. Excuse me. In those, it's a Jew thing. In those days, they were offering me $14,000 a year, and that's like 50.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was, we thought about it, but I didn't want to live in New York anymore, and I wanted my comfort zone back of LA, and I didn't want to actually rear my child in New York because it was just too hard to live there, and it was a very dangerous city at that time, actually. And but I never veered ever, and I never knew what else I would do. I mean, had that not happened to me at that time, and I would have had to get a regular, what would I have done? I didn't know how to do anything. I would have been at Orbeck's or the May Company selling shoes. I don't know what I would have done. So I got lucky. Luck is everything, and then everything, as you get known, then people come to you. You know what I mean? When I got in at Screen Gems with Partridge Family, they called me for everything. I didn't get everything, but I mean, I was going on 5 auditions. I found a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I found all my old day runners. Do you remember what day?
Oh yeah, of course.
Your appointments.
Oh my God, I still have them.
4 interviews every day for major stuff. It was like incredible time.
You signed with your agent, and how many years were you with the same agent?
Well, that's a story, but 5 years.
Okay.
And I left him because Nudie Musical was about to come out, and I had a manager. I had gotten a manager who was really incredible manager named Pat McQueenie, who had the entire stable of American Graffiti actors. She had Ken Phillips, Williams, and Candy Clark, and Charlie Martin Smith, and me, and Lee Purcell, I think, and Art Hindle, and she was just in Harrison Ford. She was an incredible manager, and she felt I needed to be with a bigger agent. So she placed me with an agency called Bressler, Wolf, Cota, and Livingston, they were known as at that time. And they were incredible. I mean, they were huge. Jack Nicholson, huge clients there.
Was that the right move at the right time for you?
I don't know the answer to that question. It was a good, I mean, they were great agents, and I got a lot of stuff through them. But there was something about Alex that I loved. He was just a smaller, small-time agent, but I was only with Bressler Wolf for 2 years, and then I went to the Gersh agency, and they were huge, and they were
Absolutely.
very good for me. And it was a time. I tell people, I wrote my first memoir because whoever would want to read a memoir by me, but I wrote it.
We've got a lot of comments here and a lot of people, and I'm one of them. Your books are phenomenal, Bruce.
Oh, thank you.
So we love those books. Keep them coming out.
I wrote.
You've got another book coming out.
I do. I just finished it 2 weeks ago. But I wrote the first memoir, which was my first nonfiction book, and I wrote it because I wanted people to there was a reason I wrote it, and not look at me, look at this, but I wanted to show actors and people how much fun it was to be an actor in those days, to be a young, up-and-coming actor, there was no negativity, there was no competitiveness and one-upsmanship like there is today. It was nothing like there is today.
Let's talk about that for a moment.
Absolutely.
I mean, okay, you have seen the trajectory of this business change a lot. You talked earlier about the limited number of stations that we had. I remember 3 networks, and those 3 networks, if I can speak for just a moment, they vied for the largest demographic. So I grew up at a time where I knew who the artists were for my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation. So I knew who Carol Channing was, and Sophie Tucker, and George Burns as a child, because I saw them on our networks. And then when networks like MTV came along, I feel in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, folks, greatest disservice to the entertainment industry, because it's a niche audience and a lot of generations have no idea who anything outside of that realm are. And so they don't grow up knowing who these people are. I want you to speak from your own perspective about the changes that you've seen in the business and what you consider to be the pluses and the minuses.
I don't think there are any pluses. I mean, there's a lot of content that's a plus. So you have many, many more opportunities, but those opportunities are now much harder than they were. I mean, the ease that I had, thank God, in my young career was part of it, that there weren't that many outlets, that you were on network TV. But where you are right is there's no history today. I work with young people all the time. They have no idea who anybody is. And I insist that they find out who everybody is because you have nothing if you have no history. Mm-hmm. And when we grew up, especially when I grew up, every week I watched the Ed Sullivan Show, and you would see unbelievable legends that and in movies from the time I was 4 years old on TV. I only loved the old, I didn't want to see anything that I'd seen in the movie theater. I wanted to see the old, King Kong and whatever they showed, The Beast with 5 Fingers. We had $1 million movie on Channel 9. They showed a movie 3 times a day, 7 days a week, the same movie. So I would see the same movie. I remember seeing Carnival in Costa Rica, the movie with Dick Haymes. I must have seen it like 70 times. I could sing you the title song right now. It was so you knew who these people were. You had history. You knew. I didn't just know who the actors of my generation were. So when I got to work with Gene Simmons, or not Kiss Gene Simmons, the real Gene Simmons.
Yes, I know.
Or Patricia Neal or Pat Carroll or any of those people, I knew who they were. Mm-hmm. And they loved that I knew who they were because nobody else knew who they were.
That's right.
Even them. And
when I first came to New York, I used to go to the Piccadilly Hotel. On Wednesday afternoons, they had a tea for the Ziegfeld Girls. And Winnie Shaw, who introduced Lullaby of Broadway. I used to go and I used to sit at 18 years old when I first came to New York, and they were all over me because I was this 18-year-old kid sitting, and I just used to drink up these stories that they would talk about Flo Ziegfeld and everything. And just the fact that I was able to do that, it's a shame that we don't have that as much as we did.
Irreplaceable. It's irreplaceable. I mean, kids today don't know who actors from the 70s are, or even the 80s sometimes, let alone Judy Garland. You say that some kid, Judy Garland, they go, I don't know what you're talking about, unless you say The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
But I listen. I did a play at the Mark Taper Forum, and we had one song in it. So our piano player, Ray Henderson, was very, very close with Elsa Lanchester. So I became like really close with Elsa, and every weekend on Sunday, I would go to her beach house, that she had with Charles Lawton, and have brunch with Elsa and Ray and their neighbors, Christopher Isherwood and Don McCarty.
Oh my God! Wow.
They said, "Would you come pose for me naked?" And I said, "Oh, you don't want that." But people like that, oh my God! And then in the recording days, I got to work with everybody, and that was a dream come true. And they just love that their history.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important, and you say this to kids, and they don't get it. They don't care. They don't want to know.
Well, do you have any advice? I mean, we have a question here. Do you have any advice on how we do educate these kids?
You have teachers who insist that if they're taking musical theater in college, that first of all, you do shows that are older. You do the classics. You don't just do the Addams Family. You don't just do Mamma Mia. I look at shows that they do in our, the bigger theaters in LA, and it's all the same shows because they own the set, so it's just one thing to another. And the only classics you get are classics that were just revived. So you never get The Bells Are Ringing. You never, my favorite shows, you never get Little Abner. My intention is to do all of them. Mm-hmm. And I had the head of a theater ask me to direct a show, and he said, "What show would you like to do if you had your dream?" A play, not a musical. And I said, "Dial M for Murder." And he said, "Why? That's so old. Nobody will like that." I said, "Dial M for Murder. You want me to direct Dial M for Murder?" And he said, "All right." And they let me do it, and it was a smash because it's a great play. Mm-hmm. And I did it with respect, and I didn't rewrite it, and I had terrific actors in it, and it was a smash. Audiences came and ate it up and laughed and shuddered and everything you would want them to do in Dial M for Murder. So I think if you do Bells Are Ringing, if you do Hello Dolly, if you do well, that's revived all the time. But I would just, that's how you learn. You learn about structure. You learn about, because if you only look at the musicals they write today, and I'm not denigrating anything unless you follow me on Facebook, but they're the same. They're all, I don't understand them. I don't understand songs with 4 chords. I don't understand open fourths all the time in songs. And I'm not interested. So I'm kind of the reverse of them. I'm not interested in their stuff. They're not interested in my stuff. So go no. But you just have to educate people. And I'm finding the teachers who are teaching this stuff don't. Mm-hmm. They feel the kids don't want to know. Well, who cares what the kids want to know? No kid wants to know anything other than let me on the stage, but you got to know how things evolved. To me, I mean, and why wouldn't you want to know? I'm sure you were the same. I was like a sponge.
Oh my God. I had a great mentor. And I've told this story before, but if we were in class and if she would mention a name, Patricia Neal, for example, and she would say, name 3 things that she's known for. And if I didn't know, she would close the book and she would say, I'll see you next Wednesday. Come back and know 3 things that she's known for. And I would come back and I would have to tell her, and long before Google, of course, folks, I would go to the library and I would go into the index and I would look up the names, and I would grab everything. My mom, who's watching, she knows that I was obsessed with knowing who these people were and are, because they're still very much in my consciousness.
Yes, and they just, and there's nobody like them today. I mean,
exactly.
The other thing is you look at Carol and you look at Streisand. Well, Streisand's still with us, but you look at any a Merman or anybody, of the golden age. And there aren't people like that anymore. They're being trained to be the same. And I think the producers love it because they can not care if their star is out because there is no star really.
Well, I was interviewing Sandy Duncan and Don Correa a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking, it changed from playing a role on Broadway to being on a track on Broadway. You know, when did that happen?
10 years ago, 15 years ago. I mean, it's shocking, it's nauseating, and I love understudies and standbys. Don't write me notes. But you know, Carol Channing, if you saw her understudy, I saw her, one of the understudies for, not her, but when Ginger Rogers was doing the show. And she was fantastic. Mm-hmm. Understudy, I can't remember who it was. She was great, but it wasn't Ginger Rogers. I knew enough to know the difference between Ginger Rogers and this wonderful other lady. And
Bibi Osterwald? It
wasn't Bibi. It was somebody I've never heard of again. Mm-hmm. But I love Bibi. I would love to have seen Bibi. Mm-hmm. She was fantastic. But, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but you stick one of these current stars in a show, and they're wonderful performers. I'm not saying they're not great, but you can replace them very easily with another. You know, you look at all the Galindas and all the Elphabas. I don't know, you know, Dina and Kristen were incredible in that show, but there have been many incredible Elphabas and Galindas, and I'm sure some really young kids today don't even know who Kristen and Dina are. You know, that's how it goes. But I don't know. I sound like an old man on his lawn, don't I?
Well, I want to get back. We're going to do 2 giveaways today, and but before we get to that, I want to ask you, when you sat down to write your memoir, what was your initial goal with writing your memoir? What did you want your readers to come away with, and what did you come away with from learning about yourself, from sitting down to put your life on paper?
That's an interesting story because my first 3 novels are me. That's about my childhood up till 17. Then there are these missing 3 years that I've never written about. And then the first memoir picks up right after that. So again, I wanted people to know how much fun it was to be an actor, how it changed, why it changed, for the worse, in my opinion. And then I also wanted to do the big thrust for me, which I had not intended to write about. I was not going to go there, was how difficult my life got in the 80s. And I thought the 80s were a disaster for me. I thought, could I be any worse? Could I be more awful? Can I be more unsuccessful? Can I fail more? And I'm writing all this stuff up until the sort of end of that section.
Did the business change or did you change?
No, the business totally changed. You know, casting directors whose job it was to know talent and make appointments suddenly became this huge barrier. And you would have to read for that. I never read for a casting director in my life, ever. And so my attitude got very bad when that started happening. Because I don't, you know, I said to some casting director, I said, why am I reading for you? Can you hire me? And he said, no. I said, then this is a waste of time for both of us. Why don't you send me, if you know my work, you know, it's not hard to see me in something. No. So that changed. And then the nature of it changed, where suddenly when I went up for a guest shot, it was me and 4 other people, always. And an hour after we all read, one of us would have the job. We didn't hate the others because the next day we had something else. Today, you hate all the competition. You give them the evil eye in the auditions. And there are 50 or 100 people up for under 5s. And then you have to put yourself on tape, and then you have to meet the producer, and they put you on tape, and that tape goes to the network, and the network, has approval of under fives. And I'm going, who wants to do that? I don't want to do it. I did 8 pilots, leading roles in pilots. I never met a network person. I met them after I was cast. And occasionally I would be cast without an audition because I had gotten that far, but I became very negative, I will say. And this was to me when I decided to go there in the book, because I was in a very, very, very dark place. And I'm sure, and I know a million people who've gone through it. And when I see it on Facebook, somebody posts, I'm at the end of my rope, and I go, please read the last third of my book. Even if you don't care about me or the first 2/3 of the book, read the last third, because I was at that place. I was suicidal.
Wow.
I never lie about it. I never hide it. I just didn't know a way out. And I finally, as I say in the book, looked at myself in the mirror one day. I go, who is this person? I don't know this person. I don't want to know this person. I hate this person. So either get rid of this person or become the person you should be and that you were your whole life. And that was an epiphany, as Stephen Sondheim would say. And I did. I changed my life. And it changed like that. I have to tell you, it changed like that. You change that attitude, and you wash your negativity down the drain, and you watch it go there. And I do that all the time. If something's bothering me, I get in the shower. I don't care if it's 5 times a day.
Good for you. Well,
Clear.
let's talk about Tonight's the Night. That's going to be our first giveaway. We're going to do 2 giveaways. And if our behind the scenes guy will bring up on the camera, I'm going to show everyone how this is going to work. As you can see, my hands are free. This is Black Diamonds Month, because I consider all of our guests this month, all are Black Diamonds. Special. And we've got 8 entries. You need to put in hashtag Black Diamonds Month. And just to let you know, it's best that you do this through YouTube. So get over to the YouTube channel to do it there. And then this is randomly done, as you will see in a few moments. I have nothing to do with this. And we're going to have a winner. But Bruce, tell everyone what they're going to get and tell them a little bit about this.
This is a Blu-ray, for those of you who have Blu-rays, of a musical I wrote called Tonight's the Night. And I wrote it specifically during the time when we all had to do online stuff. I had taken our Kritzerland shows that we do every month online, and we had become the poster child for sort of how to do those things without having any technical glitches. And so I wrote this musical that played into that. So it was a musical about a guy who finds an old girlfriend on Facebook and asks to meet her on Zoom. So we call it a Zoom musical, and they get together and there's 10 songs in it, and it's funny and charming, and it looks like it's on Zoom. And everybody, I had huge people in the business text me or PM me after it was over, after we streamed it, and they said, I don't know how you conquered the technology. Oh my God, there wasn't a single glitch. Were you live switching? How are you doing that? I'm going, are you insane? So the whole thing was in fact filmed and edited. You would think edited by in the end credits would clue them in, but it was all filmed and made to look like it was on Zoom. And it was very clever, and it's really good. I am really proud of it. And the star is Eric Peterson, who's on this not web series, it's a major series on one of those Netflix or one of those, I don't remember which one. Eric Peterson, who's in the show called Kevin Can Go F Himself. And Hartley Powers is the female. And we just had so much fun doing it. It was hard to figure out how to do it, but we conquered it, and we did conquer it in our own way. But the Blu-ray also has a thriller I wrote in the same vein that looks like it's taking place on Zoom, called Revenge. But for those of you who remember my web series Outside the Box, all 12 of those episodes are on this and feature people like Beth Level and Al Linden and Adrian Zmed and a lot of big stars. And those are really, really fun. It's all musical theater spoofs.
That's great. So what you need to do, everybody, is put in the hashtag Black Diamonds, it's plural, month. And while we're waiting for you to get there, we've got 9 entries so far. And I know there are a lot more people watching. And again, the best thing to do is to do this through YouTube. So I'm going to ask you some questions. This is my homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. I've just got some random questions just to give us an overall view of you. And while we're asking those questions, bring that back on, Glenn. We're going to keep them on so we can see the numbers go up. And I'm going to continue to ask these questions. So the first question is, do you practice gratitude? And if so, name 3 things that you're grateful for.
Yes, I do. Every day. Not a day goes by, as Mr. Sondheim said.
Yes.
I am grateful to be alive. I am grateful to be healthy. And I am grateful to have people in my life that I love and adore. And what could be better than that?
And we're grateful for you. So thank you for that. What is the best prize that you've ever won in this business?
Never won anything. I have entered contest after contest. I don't win prizes. If you're meeting in general, like a prize, Nudie Musical was a gift beyond repair. I mean, beyond imagining, and beyond repair. And writing the books is an extreme gift. If you want to know about a real prize I won a bottle of bubbles that you blow bubbles in a movie theater once, and I won a set of lobby cards for cruising.
Oh, good.
Cruising with Al Pacino. I still have my lobby cards.
Wow.
If anyone wants them, I'm happy to donate them somewhere.
Great. When have you been most honorable in your career?
That's an interesting question. Honorable. Have I been honorable? I mean, I don't know what that means, actually. Haven't been honorable. I like to think I'm always honorable. I think we all fail at things, but I try to be honest and honorable in everything I do. Mm-hmm. I try not to make people unhappy, except on Facebook. And I don't, I've helped people. I guess that's honorable. I will say sure. I've been really supportive of young performers and put them in Kritzerland shows from the very start. I'm talking about kids. Mm-hmm. And I feel that's honorable. That's feel great. And nurturing, really super talent. We just did an all young people show last week, Sunday. And it's just so heartening. It just brings, I said to them, as a group of, when we were giving notes, I said, what I love about you guys is you bring joy into my house. And you can't, I always tell young people, learn this word, Jeff, J-E-F. And I said, if you use this, what these initials stand for, you will never fail. And it's joy, energy, and fun.
That's great. I love that.
And we say Jeff before every performance. And it's kids. Yeah, I feel strong about kids.
I do too. That's wonderful. What would you most like to be remembered for after you pass on?
These are tough questions, Richard. I would like to, I guess, that's hard. That's really hard. Not the acting stuff so much, but the books. I'm very proud. It's 22 books now. I'm super proud of them. And I don't know how many people ultimately read them, but the ones who read them like them. Mm-hmm. So
they're wonderful.
It's gratifying to me. But that's what gives me certainly the most joy overall, is sitting by myself, because it's something you do that's very insular, and you have nothing but you to hope that you're doing it well, and no help. And I don't solicit notes from people. I don't care. I have a muse who who does give me comments and who is always correct about everything. And but the books, I think the books or the songs, one of the, I like to love writing songs, and I'm like the most undiscovered songwriter ever, but somebody ought to look up my songs. I did a book of my lyrics. And if you can't tell I'm good from that book, then maybe I'm not so good.
Okay.
They're really good lyrics.
What do you think your purpose in life is at this moment in your life?
Is to share the gift of music and to share whatever knowledge I have gleaned over the years and to share the joy of performing and doing things just to I don't know what other purpose I would have actually is to share for anybody who's interested what's in me and
Okay.
like that.
What is the best ritual of your daily life?
For old Jews, getting up in the morning is
That's for almost anyone.
a good ritual.
What is the best way for you to relieve tension?
But I would say the best ritual I have every day is writing because I write. I have, some people know this and some people don't, the longest running daily blog in the history of the internet. Yes, folks, it's 20 years and never missed a day of blogging ever in 20 years.
Great blog.
And so I write every day. I write that, or I'm writing a book, or I'm writing a screen, or whatever it is, I'm writing a song. And that's my daily thing, and you can't start a day off better than that.
I agree. What is the best way for you to relieve tension?
Is this a no? I sometimes will put my head in the refrigerator. That's always a good thing. And but real tension, I literally do what I told you I do. I get in the shower and I wash it down the drain. And you have to believe that. You have to not play at it. You have to watch it literally go off of your person.
I'm going to try that. I love that. Whose smile can most easily persuade or seduce you?
As a kid, I would have said Leslie Parrish, who was Daisy May in the thing. Whose smile? God, everybody has such beautiful smiles that I know I would hate to single them out, but Carrie O'Malley, what a beautiful smile she has. Adrian, Steve, all these people I work with, they light up a room when they smile. But I'm all about smiles, so I love when you smile, you light up a room. Clearly. So I love smiles. I can't just pick one person.
Okay, and this is the last question. So, okay.
The daughter, when the daughter smiles.
Okay. So this is it, folks. We're gonna have the drawing in just a moment. What period from history fascinates you the most?
I would have to say the 20s would have been a glorious time, probably for people like us. We would have had a blast in the 20s, I think. Don't you?
I absolutely. And here we are in the 20s again. So,
yes,
so let's make them exciting. So we're going to do two drawings. The first, of course, is for Tonight's the Night. And the second drawing will be for my dear friend Dee Wallace, has a new book out called Born. She was on the show last week, and I'm going to be giving out a copy of her book tonight as well. So let's do the drawing. Drum roll, please. And here we go. Here we go. No. That only happened because my assistant was putting it in. Do it again. This is what happens when he encourages people to sign up.
I want to see if it's anybody I know.
Kassira McKee.
I don't know.
Kassira and I host a show called Let That Go every Sunday night at 5 o'clock. So Kassira, we will get a copy of this to you. And now for Born, let's do one more drawing, Glenn. So do it again. No, do it again. Next time, don't put my name in. Pam Stubbs is our winner tonight. So we'll get a copy of Born to You, Pam. Just send me a note and we'll get it to you. So we can take that off the screen. And I just want to say, just stick with us for just a moment, Bruce.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I know that I can speak for Bruce when I say this. When you show up for any of us in this business, we don't take it lightly. So thank you for being here tonight. If this is your first time at Richard Skipper Celebrates, I hope it will not be your last. Please subscribe to this show. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Tell your friends about the show. If there's anyone else that you would like to see celebrated on this show, let me know about that as well. I always end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Now, I have discovered this incredible new page called whatyoumeantome.com. Bruce, I'd like you to write this down too.
Okay.
At the bottom of your screen, it's called whatyoumeantome.com. As you can see, it's the number 2. I would like everybody who's watching the show tonight to go to this page. And then I want you to go to your Facebook page, and the 8th name that pops up, I would like you to go to that name, go back to whatyoumeantome.com, fill out the form, and let that 8th friend know what they mean to you. Because life is short, and we need to let those people in our lives know what they mean to us. Tomorrow is not promised to us, and this is it. As our dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, Bruce, I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, now's your chance. Or just any message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now. You've got the final word. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you give the goodbye, I will start the closing credits. I thank you for the gifts that you've given to the world and that you're going to continue to give to the world. Thank you for all that you do for all of us. And you're welcome here anytime. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you very much, Bruce Kimmel.
Final word. I'm just doing the final word. I've talked way too much. I would just say we've all just been living in a crazy time, as you know, for the last 2 years. And it continues to be crazy and probably will continue to be crazy for some time. So I have one word, 2 words. Stay positive. You will not fail if you stay positive. If you go down the negative road, there's nothing there but negativity. So stay positive, be happy, and have joy in your life.